Hi, this is Tabletop Templar, and welcome back to another video. Today we're looking at a new purchase that I just made. It's called No Peace Without Spain, and it's by Compass Games. This is the deluxe edition, and this is about the War of the Spanish Succession, 1702 to 1713. This game is designed by Don Herden. And yeah, and like I said, this is the deluxe edition. This is still in shrink wrap. You can see. So I just got this. This is a game I've been looking at for a while now, and it's a point-to-point game. I don't own any point-to-point game. Almost all my games are hex encounter. This is point-to-point, and not only that, but this is a card-driven game. So it's really a new kind of game for me, and it's also my first Compass Games game. So I'm really excited to try this one out. So I'm gonna flip it over, and yeah, I really like the artwork. The War of the Spanish Succession is a conflict that I know of like a little bit about, in because some of it did bleed over to North America. I know there was a couple conflicts, some of the European conflicts, like Queen Anne's War, and I can't remember. I don't think it's that one, but it's not Queen Anne's War. But there was some fighting I know in North America. I'm trying to remember what it might have been. The Dutch with New York. I have to look it up. But I do know that some of it did bleed over, and I think some fighting might have been in the Caribbean and around the world, maybe even India, or it might have that just been the 7 Years' War. So I'm not sure. Let me read the back. We'll see if we can get more information. So, and looking right here, we can see it's a new mounted map board. I guess the original just had the paper map. This was a big deal for me. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get this. If I can opt for a mounted board, I'll take it. I just prefer that. But of course, there's many games that only have paper maps, and I just have to deal with that. But if I can get a mounted map, I'll take that. So, as you can see, here's some of the cards. Interesting to see how the card-driven game goes. Marlborough, the Duke of Marlborough, I believe. He was the British and Hanover leader. I know for the Frederick the Great game, which this definitely is a little bit before that. And looks like Austria, Britain, Spain, France, the Dutch. There's some leaders. Demoralization looks pretty similar. So I'm going to get to this in a second. I'll read this, but I'm going to kind of look over here. It says complexity, medium, 4 out of 10. Time scale, 1 year per turn. So it's a pretty big time scale, but keeping in mind, it is it's covering a decade, 11 years, or actually 11 years of warfare. So I guess it'd be 11 turns, 10 or 11 turns, maybe 12 at max, if you go slightly beyond that, the actual time frame of the war. So that's not too bad, not super long. Map scale, point to point, strategic level, unit skill, 1 corps of 10,000 mixed arms and fleets. So there's no cav and no artillery. It's just basically just generic strength points, just like Frederick the Great. Players 1 or 2, best with 2. Okay, and solitary suitability high. 6 out of 10. All right, that's pretty good. It's interesting. I've noticed this on the Compass Games They put the solitaire suitability, which that's really good for me because I mostly play solitaire. Playing time 4 hours. That's not too bad. That's a pretty quick game then. For this kind of for this kind of scale, 4 hours to play an entire war. So you get one mounted map, 2 sheets of counters, one deck of 55 playing cards, rulebook and scenario book, multiple player 8 cards, and 10 six-sided dice, one box and lid. Okay. All right. So let's read the back a little bit. So there you go. I don't know if I want to read all of this, but so I'll read this part. The game allows you to explore many of the what-ifs of this fascinating conflict. Can Marlborough carve his way through the fortress-studded plains of the Spanish Netherlands to the gates of Paris, or will he find an easier route to the French capital? Interesting. Lots of fortresses, just like Frederick the Great. That's pretty typical of this time period. Bavarian allies. Okay, Bavaria's in this too. I'm painting up some Bavarian figures. Maybe I'll do a video on that. What? Spain is the critical theater. Occupation of Madrid is vitally important to both sides, and its control will likely determine the ultimate victor. Now you can recreate the full war and determine yourself whether there will be no peace without Spain. And No Peace Without Spain was first published by Compass in 2011 to positive reviews and quickly sold out its initial print run. In 2017, it spawned a successful prequel game using the same system, 9 Years, The War of the Grand Alliance, 1688 to 1697. And other No Peace Without Spain based titles are in the works. We are pleased to offer this new deluxe edition featuring a mounted map, rounded edge counters, and updates, and clarifications to the rules, cards, and player aids. Well, that's interesting. So that's even more than just the mounted map. They rounded the counters so you don't have to clip them. Now, for me, I could care less about clipping. If anything, I almost prefer the square counters. I don't really understand. I'm so sorry for anyone who loves clipping. I don't get it at all. Not one bit. Don't understand why you want to clip them. But is it that and maybe for hex-based games, maybe it's easier to see where they are in the hex. Maybe that was the initial reason, that the maps were just too small, the counters were just too big, and so they started clipping them just to reduce the size a bit? Or is it something that you really like seeing? I honestly don't get it. Post that in the comments. Let me know in the comments, why do you like to clip them? It looks like they show kind of rounded. I don't know if this is how they actually will look, but they have a rounded look to them already. But we'll see. All right, well let's crack this open. I'm gonna pause it and then I'm gonna open this up. Actually, I've just decided to do this. Be easier. Don't get to do this very often. Open up a game from shrink wrap. I buy a lot of games secondhand, so this is really a luxury for me. So you get to see. Let's open this up. All right, we got a deck of cards. It even says deluxe edition, so they must have, like the box said, they did change some of it. Bunch of dice. I got a ton of dice near this. So yeah, appreciate it. But it's always good to, when games give you everything you need, even if you might assume that most like serious gamers will probably have, colored dice. It's nice that they actually will just give you them, not just assume. It is maybe it's a bit of annoyance for some. Rule book. I think this is the rule book. So 32. We got 32 pages. It said there was a rule book and a scenario book, so I think this is the rule book, not the scenario book. And here's the factions. So this is a 2-faction game. We have the Bourbon powers, France, Bourbon Spain, Bavaria. They join with the first auto action or automatically in 1703. Savoy. So, cool. And the alliance is Britain. They're in red, of course. The Dutch Republic. They're orange. Of course, the Dutch are orange. Austria, white. The Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, I assume. Subsidy. Not sure. Does that mean mercenaries? I don't know what is subsidy. I'll have to look that up. I'm sure I'll find out what that means, but they can't. I've never heard of that. They must be like mercenaries. Portugal, Savoy. Wait, maybe they switched sides. Oh, Savoy switched sides, and Habsburg, Spain joins with the uprising, so Spain can flip. And rules covering all kinds of stuff: supply, stacking, fortification, battle, siege, events. No Peace Without Spain is a 2-player game depicting the War of the Spanish Succession. The war was fought primarily to determine the fate of the Spanish throne and its dominions, but also represented a continuing struggle between the Habsburg and Bourbon dynasties for the political, religious, and economic dominance of Europe. One player represents the interests of the French claimant, Philippe V, while the other player represents the interests of the Austrian claimant, Charles III. Note that Savoy is initially a Bourbon power. Bourbon, I should say, but can switch sides due to the Savoy switches sides event card. Okay, cool. Scale: each turn represents 1 year. Each combat unit is called a corps, represents approximately 10,000 men. Leaders represent the named personality and his staff. Okay. I'm gonna just kind of flip through here real quick. All kinds of good stuff. Fortresses. Yeah, alright, so this is pretty standard rule book. Nice. Bunch of baggies. I like that they give you them. I mean, I do have, tons of extra baggies, but it's nice that they give you everything you need as a minimum. Player aid cards. Pretty large. Events. Yeah, this kind of. Reinforcement phase, Navy rules. I always like games that include Navy, if you can. Sequence of play. Very similar kind of to how the War and Peace game is. Kind of reminds me. Very nice. And there is a second copy. I believe, yeah, because this is a maximum two-player game, so that's cool. They give you two of the exact same things. Two-player aids, they're duplicates. There's kind of a powder on this stuff. On my fingers, I can feel like a powder residue on everything. I don't know. Is that normal? Here are the counters. And, oh, I got too much. There's the board. I'll open that up in a second. And here's the two counter sheets. Not a lot. Pretty counter light, actually. There we go. These are, I believe these are the French. Yep, here's France, and here's Spain here. Bavaria. Not a ton of counters. And I think there's a fleet down here. Army and leaders. And here is everyone else. The Dutch, the British, Austrians, Empire, is everyone else. And a bunch of generic, or blanks really. And they are all double-sided, and they also are halved as well. It's not a very high counter, pretty low counter density. And as you can see, they are round, or they're kind of rounded. They're not. They don't have the sharp edges, I should say. Fairly large counters. These are definitely a bit bigger. These are larger than like the War and Peace counters. Those are tiny. These are fairly large. So, all right, I will pause and open this, put this map out. That way you can see it. Okay, I'm back, and this is a fairly large, pretty good sized map. And it seems like a really high quality, like there's a decent quality material here. I like it. It doesn't feel like this will warp or get damaged too easily. One thing, there's a little bit of like bleeding. I don't know if you could see on this. I'm not sure if this is deliberate or what, but there's a lot of kind of like splotchiness. Like right here, if you can see that, this spot, there's just a lot, I don't know, this is the, I'm not sure if this is deliberate or if this is supposed to happen, but there's just a lot of splotchiness of the ink. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be part of the design. I'm gonna guess no, because it just looks ugly. I'm kind of disappointed actually, now that I look more at it. This sort of splotchiness just doesn't look very good. Yeah, I think it must be something in the dye, or it just didn't dry properly. Yeah, there's some discoloration over here, but again, there is a chance I might just be wrong, and maybe everyone's copy just looks like this. It's supposed to represent like an old map, like a vellum kind of map. I hope so, but there's just some splotchiness that looks like ink. But anyway, all right. So first impression, okay. Maybe if I'm completely wrong about that, everyone else's map looks the same. Like the splotchiness here is intentional. Then I'm sorry. I apologize, but if it's not, then I am a little bit disappointed. So All right, that's out of the way. Let's get to the actual map. So, starting at the top, we got Britain with one city, London. So there's not a lot of movement areas. So you know it's just point to point. You just go where you can. Um, be interesting to see how that plays out. Like I said, I've never played a point to point game before. I know that a lot of people do like that. It does make it a little bit simple. There's no terrain, I guess, modifiers, although some of these do have terrain. Uh, it looks like there's like mountains. I think every Spanish city has it. Some have, no, they've all got two in Portugal. So there's Gibraltar. Although it's under Spanish control, not British control. So maybe this is where they get Gibraltar. This is is this Savoy? I think this is Savoy. Austrian Italy. And there's even down here in Naples, the Papal States, and France. The major cities. I think these might be fortresses. These might be different level, like a different size fortress. And we go Dutch Republic. This is Spanish, Netherlands. Did I call this Austrian? It has the yellow, so maybe this isn't Austria. Maybe the white is Austria. And then you have the Empire. Oh yeah, here we go. Subsidy and Empire home space. Here's Austria home space. Okay, here's Austria. And yeah. All right, interesting. I know the Spanish had the Netherlands a long time ago. All right, interesting. We have fertile, normal, rugged. So that's a stacking limit. Okay, that makes sense. That's a pretty simplified stacking rule then. Ports, wealthy space. Okay. All right, that makes sense then. Now I'm going to open these up or try to at least. And I'll kind of go through these pretty quickly. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but again, this has really all this like powder on my fingers. But here's the backs. We have events. I'll split these up. Events and action. So we'll do events first. Eugene, probably. Rebellion defeated. Great Northern War. That's right. It's between Sweden. Although I think they fought Russia. So I guess Russia isn't in this war. Savoy, there it is. Savoy switches sides. The Bank of England. Attack on Gibraltar. Okay, maybe that's where the British get Gibraltar. Political intrigue at Versailles. Forced march. Play when a force activates, it gains 1 additional movement point. Desertion and disease. Command dispute. Bad weather. Early assembly. The Great Northern War. Okay. There it is. It talks about, yeah, in Russia. Death of Emperor Joseph. The Jacobite Rebellion. Although that wasn't the main Jacobite Rebellion wasn't until 1745. That was the Culloden. Great Famine. Hungarian Rebellion. All right. Interesting. And the action cards. These are all 1, 2, 2, 3. They're just a bunch of 1 through 3s. Okay. That must be how the combat goes. I'm not sure. I'll have to find that out. All right, interesting. Well, I'm glad that I got this. This is a game that I have been looking at for a while now, and I'm glad that I finally able to pick it up. Seems like a kind of a simple game, but we'll see. There's certainly not a lot of counters, and a lot of these counters are just stuff that would come on the board, but not a lot of armies. So, hopefully that makes it a fairly easy game, straightforward. So I wanted to pick this up because, for one, it's a conflict that I don't really know as much about, compared to a lot of other, like Napoleonic Wars, even the 7 Years' War, and other European conflicts. I don't really have a ton of background on some of these major wars in the 17 and 1600s, like the 9 Years, was it the 9 Years' War mentioned, the War of the Grand Alliance, the War of the Spanish Succession, the War of the Austrian Succession, and a few others. It's sort of a period where I don't, other than the 7 Years' War and the Napoleonic Wars, but the conflicts before, kind of in between maybe even the 100 Years' War or the War of the Roses, and like the 7 Years' War, a lot of those conflicts we don't really talk about them as much in school. So interesting to kind of find more about this and to kind of learn the history as well as learn a new game. And so that was kind of my rationale for purchasing this. And I wanted to try out a point-to-point game. That was also the main reason. I wanted to try out this system, and because they have made a couple other games using this system, I want to play this first before maybe I might enjoy this, and maybe purchase more games, or maybe I might say, you know what, I'm this point-to-point style game, the card-driven point-to-point style game from Compass Games is not really my thing, and I can give it a miss from here on out. But time will tell, and we'll find out. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me. And if you want to see more games like this, more content, more videos, stick around. I'm going to keep making games, and if you have any suggestions, let me know. And if you've played this game, let me know what you think of it. And I'll catch you next time.